Welcome back to the Calyx Growing Things Gardens. I'm Thelma, and I'm nestled here in a very small corner of our Anthurium plot. Why? Because today's topic is Anthurium. Anthurium, a lovely, lovely cut flower. It speaks of the tropics whenever you see it. A very important cut flower in the floral industry, but in the tropics we like to grow it outdoors because the conditions are ideal for anthuriums once you nestle it on the trees and provide it with indirect but bright light. So today's topic, anthuriums. I will show you some of the conditions here in the garden that allow us to grow a wide range of anthuriums, different colors, different types, and I'll spend most of the time showing you some of our routine maintenance practices. But before I do that, there's an interesting part of the botany of anthurium that I want to share with you. The anthurium flower. We all think of the flower as this large, colorful part. In this case, this is a white anthurium bloom. But if we think so, we would not be correct. This part is called the spathe. You can see it's a modified leaf. If you look, you can see the veins coming through. And its purpose is to protect this part of the flower. And this is where the true flowers are born. This is called the spadix. Now, if you look closely, the tiny flowers. Generally, you need a magnifying glass to see it, but the tiny flowers are born on this spadix, and the anthurium flower has both the male and the female flower, so it's self-pollinated. This spathe offers protection to the spadix in terms of, I guess, lots of wind or animals brushing by. But it's a clever little trick, because if it were not for this beautiful spathe, I guess the anthurium would still be in the forest where it started out. Anthuriums are originally from the rainforests of Central South America. It's found its way around the globe for commercial reasons, clearly. But the conditions that are optimum for anthuriums include indirect sunlight. And we have two locations in the garden here where we've attempted to create that kind of forest feel, where we've nestled them on the trees so that speckled light comes through, but not direct sunlight. The other location is in the courtyard, and we're going to go there next. The anthuriums in this location are grown under a trellis, which allows sufficient indirect light. Most of the types here are the larger varieties, the Caribbean pink, the obaki, and as you can see, we have a selection of other tropicals, so they should feel at home as if they are still in the forest. We love our anthuriums here in the garden, but as you can see, it's not the only thing here. We have hundreds of different types of plants, and that could be a problem at times when you have to make sure that conditions are right for each plant. And there are times when we're busy elsewhere, like we've just concentrated a lot on growing some vegetables, and by the time we turn back our attention, we realize a few things were not exactly perfect for our anthurium friends. For example, I'm pretty sure you can see all the holes in the leaves. We suffered a bit of damage from our snails and slugs, which are uninvited guests in the garden, but it's hard to really control them given the number of rocks and hiding places and other hiding places we have. So today, and I'm going to just walk you through the routine maintenance activities that will help to bring these plants back to their lovely, vibrant, healthy form that we all love. So the first plant we're going to deal with here is this lovely foliage anthurium. We really like it for the details on the leaves. You see the grooving of the veins. The inflorescence may not be as spectacular as the others, but it's really curious, and they do make excellent house plants. This one has been in the pot now probably about 2 years, and it is pot bound. There are just too many shoots coming up in the pot. So in addition to the holes in the leaves, I'll have to trim away some of those leaves. I'm going to repot and give her a nice bath and gloss her up a bit, give her a nice new pot also, so that it can feel as proud as the other plants we have indoors. So let me just prep for that and let's start. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove those leaves that have huge holes that in no way I can camouflage them. So let's reduce some of those, and your cutting tool as usual, sterilize it between each plant. Today we're using alcohol to wipe the blade between working on each plant. Anthurium, oh, luckily we don't have too many disease problems here, but Anthurium does suffer from blights and root rots, especially if the watering, if you leave it in saturated media, it's more likely to get the Anthurium blight, the Xanthomonas. But we have not seen any of those problems here, mainly because of the mixture we use, and I'll be showing you that shortly. So there we have it. I think I've removed, well, there's this one here, but I'm going to save it. This leaf is just, it's still a functional leaf, and it will continue to feed the plant. So I'm going to leave that one for now. Step 2, I'm going to take the plant out of the pot, and the easiest way to dislodge the roots, turn the pot on its side, roll, squeeze, and if you're lucky, with one go, it should come out. Oh yeah, okay, here we are. All right. So what do we have here? Roots all in a bundle. And since we have taken it out, I think it's a good time now to probably try to get an extra plant from this pot. What do you think? That is how we get all these lovely plants here. This is propagation by division. Anthurium and a lot of other plants like this, you just pull them apart. They have suckers. This is one plant, lovely plant. So rather than just focusing on having one beautiful plant in a pot, if you're interested in getting more, at the time you're repotting, that's a perfect time to get new plants. Anthuriums are epiphytes. That means in their natural environment, they are not growing in soil, but they like a very nice porous medium in which to grow. So what we do here, we use 3 main items. We put coarser items at the bottom for drainage. If we have charcoal, we use or pebbles. So the first layer is to ensure free drainage. This second component of our medium is coarsely cut coconut husks. These have been soaked overnight in compost tea. Why? So that we have impregnated it with all of the nutrients and the microorganisms that will help it to decompose and release nutrients. Coconut husks retains moisture, so it's important that you do not water this plant too much. Before you water, you check the coconut husks to see whether or not they're dry. If they're wet, do not water them. You wait until they've dried out a bit. The third component is compost. This provides the nutrients in a slow release format. It's free draining, so that should not be a problem to our anthuriums. All right, now that we filled the pot about halfway, it's time to very carefully lift it up and position it in the middle of the pot. And at this point, I need some more to secure it in position. So essentially, we're using the coconut husk to give stability to this clump of anthurium, so when I let it go, it will not all fall apart. Good. You have to be ambidextrous in this business, be able to use both hands equally well. So the anthuriums will send out the roots into this coir and get the nutrients from that. So that was step 3. Step 4 in resuscitating this plant would be to give it a nice bath. As I say, there are no scale insects on this, so it would be sufficient to spray our solution of detergent and vegetable oil on the leaf. The soap will break down the dust particles, and the vegetable oil will give it a nice sheen. I would gently clean the leaves, and I'll do this off camera. And here we are, all done, nice and shine and clean in a new pot, lots of room to grow, and I'm sure she's happy. So this is our second Anthurium plant we're going to work on today. Give it a makeover, as it were. This is a tulip Anthurium, and what I love about it, it does give me a lot of blooms, but it's been blooming for a while, and quite frankly, it has outgrown its pot. See how much higher from the pot surface it's sitting, and it tends to be very unstable. So today, several problems. It's overgrown, it's grown out of the pot. If you can see, it also has some scale insects. You can see they're white, so we have to treat it and remove that. And it's the same scale insects in your house plants. The treatment of soapy water and a little oil. The soap would loosen it, and the oil would suffocate it from the plant. So it's just simply wiping. That should take care of the scales on your house plants. So 3 problems we're going to deal with: removing the slug-chewed leaves, wiping the scales with soapy water and oil, and repotting it. So step 1 again, we trim, remove any old dying leaves with holes, and recall I say we sterilize from one plant to the next. This is just cotton wool, dip in rubbing alcohol. Good. And this is a young leaf, so I have to be careful how I cut that. I don't want to cut the growing point, so I'm going to leave that. And in cutting the leaves, cut as low as possible. Don't leave the exposed stalk sticking in the air, very unattractive. So as close as possible to the plant. This is an older leaf. This can go. Got to take that one. All right, anything else looking? Yeah, here's some older leaves. This one has done its thing. It's yellow. It's not producing much for the sake of the plant, so this can go. Likewise, these. All right. Don't worry about taking off too many leaves. The idea now is to give the plant a boost so it will send out younger leaves. Also, you can remove any of the older blooms at this point in time, but hey, they still look good. I'm going to leave them. That's a cutting. The next phase is to remove the scales. So I'm going to spray the entire thing with the mixture of soap and vegetable oil that we used previously, and then I'm just going to take a cotton wool and remove this scale, the evidence of the scale. So all of the older trash here can also come out, because many times that's where the scales are hiding. Right. There we go. That should be it for the scales. You see any more? I'll get back to it later. The trimming and the descaling is finished. It's now time to remove it from this pot, do any root pruning that's necessary, and give it a new home in a larger pot. All right, the grand reveal. So the stones and the coconut, these were potted again about 2 years ago. The current coconut husks after 2 years are almost fully broken down. Okay. So this rooting structure is pretty good, but because the plant sends out new roots, and it is at this point in time you cut it and allow these new roots to support the fresh plant. Plus, it's too leggy anyway, so having sterilized my cutter, I'm going to cut off the oldest. Don't worry, it will feed. So I've selected this big pot because, I mean, this plant is going to be spreading and it should make quite a nice show once it's recovered from all of this treatment. I've prepped this pot as usual with coarse gravel and the coconut husk along with the compost. Now, you may have winced when I cut off so much of the roots, but don't worry, it is for the good of the plant. As it goes forward, it will send out many more younger, healthier roots. We also want to prevent it from being too leggy, so I'm going to insert it a little deeper in the pot than usual, but not so deep that the coconut husk comes up above the growing point. You have to keep that area exposed above the level of the medium. So I am now going to anchor it with the top layer of the coconut husk, also soaked in the compost tea. And again, I say because this plant is going to stretch a bit, it may look a little low in the pot now, but as long as I don't cover the growing point, it's good. And there will always be room for topping up as the plant stretches out of this pot. So that's it for Miss Tulip. This is one leaf I think that can also go. She's had a rather drastic treatment today, but I'm going to follow up. So we'll keep her in the nursery for about 3 months and observe the regrowth on both the young leaves and the overall appearance of the plant. There you have it. We've introduced you to a few of the types of anthuriums we have growing here in the nursery. We have discussed their growing conditions and we took you through some of the routine maintenance practices. There are lots of other aspects of growing anthuriums that we hope to cover in subsequent video. But if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, tell your friends about it, and keep watching. So until next time, this is Thelma from the Calyx Growing Things Garden saying bye-bye.